When I first got into Flesh and Blood about a year ago, I was praising the game for getting right everything that Magic was ruining. And one of those things that I praised the game for was the lack of bannings. And while I don't think that LSS is intentionally printing super busted cards in order to sell the next set, I do have to admit that this is a praise that can no longer be given to Flesh and Blood. Looking back, I think I was just a little too eager to rip into Magic because, I mean, of course, Flesh and Blood barely had any bans. There were only 3 sets at the time. With that said, let's fast forward to the present time where we now have a small ban list for both Classic Constructed and Blitz. And for this video, I will be focusing mostly on Classic Constructed as that is the game's primary competitive format. So, gone are the days where Drone of Brutality is the only no-no card. With Monarch, we got Chain and the banning of Seeds of Agony, and then with Tales of Aria, well, James White himself said they were about 3 months behind on playtesting, which would explain why this is so far the most powerful set we have gotten. Briar, Ball Lightning, Duskblade, and now Awakening. Add in the new suspension list where they've moved Seeds of Agony and also added Bloodsheath Skeleton and Autumn's Touch, and it's very obvious that the game has had a few bumps along the way. And so we've hit a point where I need to retract my statements that Flesh and Blood is better than Magic because it doesn't ban cards. It's still better than Magic, but just not for that reason. But I've definitely come to a point where I've had to recalibrate how I look at the game. And because Flesh and Blood isn't even 3 years old yet, there's not a whole lot of history to look back upon to find patterns for the game. So I'm going to be, again, comparing it to a game that I think is very similar to, that being Yu-Gi Man. Both Flesh and Blood and Yu-Gi-Oh are non-rotating games, meaning that if a card is printed, as long as they don't ban it, it will be legal forever. And looking at Yu-Gi-Oh's ban list, well... no. Alright, so first things first, LSS, please don't do this. Don't go this insane. As long as you guys don't print some generic uber busted card that results in like 6 to 7 other bannings, I think we're good. The reality of the situation is that there's no way that human beings are smart enough to be able to balance a game with thousands of cards in it. Like, we're already coming up on the 7th set and things are just going to be getting more and more difficult to balance as time goes on. But LSS has to be incredibly careful with it. If you go ban happy, that ruins player confidence and people won't want to buy into a new deck if all of a sudden it's just going to get nuked out of nowhere. However, on the flip side, if they don't ban things quick enough, you're going to result in very stagnant, boring, or irritating metas that will also push people away from the game. I think LSS has done a pretty reasonable job at managing their ban list so far. They haven't been too heavy-handed with it, and with the newest ban list, we're actually seeing them be proactive. They not only addressed the problems with Starvo, but they also did a small hit to Viserai, because if they didn't, then he would just turn around and dominate the format in Starvo's stead. And this is the right mentality to have. They have to look at not only what the problem is now, but what the problem will be if that first problem is removed, because oftentimes dealing with one monster simply creates another. And so as long as they keep up this proactive mindset, I do think we'll have pretty smooth sailing moving into the future. And you know, being part of a game that uses its ban list more frequently than a game with rotation isn't actually all that bad. Upcoming ban lists are practically an event for Yu-Gi-Oh players. People get all abuzz with speculation. Every YouTuber and their grandmother puts out a ban list prediction video, and the market goes just a little haywire as everybody's trying to buy and sell based upon what they think is going to happen. And I'm not gonna lie, I still to this day, despite not having played Yu-Gi-Oh actively in years, check the ban list when they come out. Now, while there are positives to the ban list, one thing I do not want to see LSS do is get lazy with their designs and rely on the ban list to fix that laziness. And while I am not a game designer, so I am talking out of my derriere, I personally feel like LSS should be designing cards to be the most fair and balanced for Classic Constructed. And then for Blitz, well, I don't think that they should be intentionally breaking the format, but let's be real, you have half the life in Blitz than you do in Classic Constructed. 10 damage in CC is a quarter of your life. 10 damage in Blitz is half of your life, and that is a big difference. There is simply no way that they can balance both formats at the same time. Designed for Classic Constructed, and then if something's going to break Blitz, like apparently Stubby Hammerers is going to be able to do with Uprising, then use the ban hammer for the Blitz format. All of that being said, I'm not a game designer. I'm a flesh and blood YouTuber. I'm good at making videos, not so much at being able to create and balance cards. So I'm going to continue to put my faith in LSS and trust that they will continue to give us a fair and fun game. There have been some hiccups, but they have proven that they do care about making the meta fun. They do listen to player feedback, and they are trying their best to make sure the game is as balanced as it can be. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't see any uber busted cards coming out of Uprising, and we can see this game go into an absolute golden era of play.